I'm at a point in my life where I can't tell the difference between day and night because everything's dark. And it feels like every time I pull myself together, something's working equally as hard to pull me apart. I'm tired. I'm tired of being too good and in turn not good enough, and feeling like I've done enough, but karma's compensation doesn't seem to measure up. It's like where for almost 8 years you worked your ass off to provide for your household and make a living, only to have your job tell you that it's in their best interest for you to go your separate ways the day before Thanksgiving. Severed with no severance pay. Laid off from a job where you know you better than more than half the people that were allowed to stay. But seniority wouldn't see it that way. And so now you're at a job where you're better than more than half the people with half the pay, and seniority would see to it to leave it that way. Meanwhile, the life you're grown accustomed to starts to crumble in front of you. And you're not even that proud of a person that feels like life is trying to humble you. And conversations with your mother become reassurance that she's still proud of you, and she tells you you're not a failure in spite of the growing doubt in you. It's to the point where you don't even know how to reply nor know where to begin, because at the convo's end, the result is you having to move back in. It's like everything you worked for is gone, and mentally you barely holding on because you're headed to a place that at your age society says you no longer belong. It was in those times that I yearned the support of a wife. But that wasn't possible when the one who had my back seemingly also had the knife. And in dark times, no man should ever need more than his woman to see him through it. It wasn't about you lifting the burden. I needed you to stop adding to it. Like I had people who wanted better for me and they were telling me to move on, but I would decline. It was me and you against the world, but between me and you, last thing any man wants is for people to be coming up to him that he doesn't know, asking him, yo, what's up with your girl? I had people I didn't know calling my phone, telling me to come gather what was left of you. 10 out of 10 times I responded, because at the time, leaving you alone in self-destruct never sat right with my conscience. Until you left me no options. Like there was a point where I couldn't support you when I myself started to falter. And there was a point where it felt like you were no longer my woman and you started becoming my daughter. Or at least that's how I saw you. But that fault isn't yours alone, because I often went back on my word upon matters I didn't condone. So in turn, I just enabled you. And where you mess up, I just cradle you. Because I sympathize with the fact that your mother hadn't made a way for you. So here I am trying to pick up the slack, give you the pieces that you lack, because the little boys that may repel, but to grown men it detracts. That wasn't a concept you could grasp. So me deciding to let you go was to remove myself as your crutch and finally let you grow. And I'm going to tell you that hurts like hell to know. To know that I was the problem all along, and by being an advocate for your progression, I somehow stunted my own. It wasn't until much later that I realized that you turned your whole family against me. You know, calling up your mother with exaggerated stories about the pain I was inflicting. And somewhere I must have missed it. Because if my daughter called me talking about some nigga was beating on her, then I too would have been living. You of all people know that my mother was abused, and I had more than a bird's eye view of exactly what that could do. So why would I turn around and do that to you? For the record, here's the truth. It was me, my cousin, and you. And we were sitting in the living room with our tempers flaring through the roof. And you were acting incoherent, but I just thought it was booze, because that's normally what you would use before that type of argument ensued. And for me, all the yelling wasn't cool, so I figured what's the use in the way I started to move with you swinging in pursuit. I got caught once or twice, but damage was really minute, but blind with anger, you unpacked it from a jab that I threw. I said it then, but I'm going to say it again. I was wrong. Because no amount of anger should ever compel me to do you bodily harm, and as a man, it's imperative that I set an example for those who sit before me, and I couldn't do that if I'm constantly changing the narrative to fit the story. But there's some things you never knew. And there's some things I never admitted, like how decisions that I made at 21 would turn around and make a lifetime difference. I don't think you ever was the same, but I paraded and masqueraded throughout my life like I never was to blame. I won't even lie, I never was even ashamed until I started writing this, and now I'm vicariously living through your pain. I think I killed you the same day that you told me you were with life. And now it's like, lo and behold, a reversal of roles. When I should have had your back, I was the one holding the knife. As crazy as it sounds, I really thought I was doing the right thing. I never once realized what an abortion can do to a woman's body or what it could do to your psyche, but I think it's the difference between the person you are today from the person you might be. And as crazy as it sounds, I really thought I was doing the right thing. But it was fear that deferred me from being a dad. I was trying to figure out how to be a better version of something I never had. But just to be clear, I wrote this whole part through tears because I realized I'd have been a better version just by being there. And I'm sorry for that. I'm so sorry for it. But you can't imagine what I would give to relive that moment back. I feel like I took away any joy that we would have shared in raising our little boy. And that's something I never made known. Instead, I made you feel like you had to walk around carrying that pain alone. You weren't the only one that needed therapy. You were just the only one brave enough to let it be. And as for me, I just compartmentalize and bury it like I do everything. Inside at the time, I couldn't have been further from fine. But somehow, some way, that's become my go-to line. I had a dream a while back. I was with a little boy, and he didn't have a name, or he didn't tell me what it was. He couldn't have been more than like 3 or 4 years old. And even though I didn't know him, I had love for him. It was like an inexplicable love. Like if I had to compare it, I'd imagine it's the love that a father would have for his son. For the whole day, we enjoyed each other's company. It felt like we did everything within a day's time, and yet the whole time I could never see his face. And I'm not even sure if I couldn't see it, or I did see it, and my mind just blocked that part out, but it's something I can't recall. I just recall actions. Like I remember playing with him in the park is like the most vivid of all images. And though I could never see his face, I could see his characteristics. Honestly, I saw myself. And I can't explain that type of joy, but he's the reason I know that me and you would have had a little boy. And when I woke up, I was destroyed. It felt like I killed him all over again. And through tears, I tried to put myself back to sleep when you were sleeping right beside me. And to this day, I trade my life for his. Instead, I'm haunted by the memories of the best day I'll never have a chance to live. Consciously, I was cornered. I needed an escape. So I pushed him and that dream deep within my subconscious. And somehow that's become my failsafe. It was to the point where I questioned if that dream was even real. And that's how hard my mind was at work to make sure that my feelings and emotions stayed concealed. And I figured in time you too would heal. And I really wanted to believe that. I needed to believe that. Because us moving forward and getting past the whole ordeal for me was ideal. But I think in time, all the anger, pain, and resentment that you held towards me just created nothing more than inconvenience. And maybe all the acting out you were doing was really an SOS for me to acknowledge what you was really feeling. But instead it created distance. Now for me that doesn't get any realer, because I just realized at the time I was so willing to die for you, and someone willing to cry with you. I was so cold at the time. I was cold to the point where it felt like my heart was hollow. And to turn around and get the news now that you're pregnant. That's a hard pill for me to swallow. But I have no doubt that you'll be the best mother any child could ever have. And I want you to know that I'll never attempt to come between the family you soon had. I feel like I worked so hard and sacrificed so much for this exact moment, so where you can be happy for the rest of your life, even if it isn't with me. And in return, I just need you to be the best possible version of yourself that you ever could be. You don't owe me anything. You don't owe me anything. But I'm going to ask that of you. And for nothing else but reassurance that I was right in never deciding to love you. I don't even need to see it. But I want you to obtain greatness and never settle for less. And I really need you to hear me when I tell you this. that I really wish you and your family the best.